Hey guys, it's Mckernan and thanks for joining me today. Today I want to talk about relationships, and it's such a massive subject and I can talk about it in different capacities, but I just want to focus in on kind of one thing, and that is the quality of the relationships in general we have around us. But let's bring it a little bit closer to home, maybe our core family and maybe our extended friends. And I often find that people have a perception of what they think is the quality of a relationship in their life right now, whether it's a friend or family. But of course, my challenge is based on what? It's like, let's just assume for a moment we've been in a relationship, let's say an intimate relationship, and we break up with that person, and we're unsure because we don't want to be alone, and we're scared of that and everything else. And that's why some of us overstay in relationships longer than we need to, because we ultimately know in our core that we need to get out, that it doesn't serve us or the other person. But we stay because we're scared of the unknown, of the future, of being alone. And that scares the crap out of human beings. But let's just say you do finally find the courage and the self-worth to make that transition. The dysfunctionality of the relationship you just left isn't apparent until you leave. Or most importantly, until almost you find a relationship that's better. So suddenly you've got contrast. You get out and you go, gee, I don't think that really served me. You meet someone who's better for you, you're better for them, you have a more functional, more healthy relationship. And then at that point you go, wow, why did I stay in this other relationship? But it's only at that point we have contrast to deal with. So unless you believe, I don't personally believe in reincarnation, but unless you believe in reincarnation, you've had a different life and you have context in terms of the quality that's available to you in the relationships with your family, the quality that's available to you with the relationships with your friends, and the quality that's available for you outside of that, those spheres, so to speak. Well, then you have context and you know in your core how great a relationship can be, and maybe how great relationships are in your life. But if you haven't been reincarnated, you haven't lived a previous life, and you're a little bit unsure, don't just assume that the relationships you have around you are great. I had a lady on the phone to me the other day, a client, and I said to her, how's the relationship with your kids? And she said, great. And I said, really? I said, if you don't mind, I'm going to challenge you on that one, because you're describing it and it doesn't sound great. I appreciate that's what you think it is. The head, I think it's great. But do you actually really feel that it's great? And it's very difficult to be challenged with that, because we don't want to get in touch with the fact that maybe a relationship that we hold precious, we hold dear, particularly family, isn't as deep as it could be. We don't want to kind of almost allow that process in. But if you're watching this today, you know in your heart and soul, deep down, that a relationship in your life, or multiple relationships in your life, are not as deep as you would like them to be. And you might even have an inclination that they could actually be deeper than you can even hold possible right now, but you may not know how to do it. Or you may be scared of it. Or you may be scared of actually leaning in and actually accepting the fact that the relationship's not great. But here's the hope. Unless you actually recognize that a relationship isn't as great as it could be, or at least you let go of the attachment of thinking it is, so you're open to the fact that maybe it's not. It could be, but let's just say maybe it's not. Well, then that's the only time that change or transformation or growth can happen in that relationship. Because if you're holding on to the fact that it's great, well, then there's nothing to work on, because it's great. And good luck with that. But I promise you, you might think it's great, but it could be greater. Or you might think it's good and it could be fantastic. I love the word stunning. I'm a massive fan of that word. I've been using that all my life. And I never thought it was a kind of a funny word until I came to North America, and people kind of almost react to that word stunning. But I believe in pursuing stunningness when it comes to relationships. My relationships are not perfect. Probably because I'm not perfect. But I believe that sometimes we settle for a relationship and we assume that it's brilliant, or we assume that it's great. And quite often we're missing an opportunity to grow it to where it could be. So what I believe is the three kind of, I suppose, steps that I look at when it comes to a relationship, and I encourage people to look at, is number one, get to the truth of where it really is. So in other words, recognize how maybe it's great or it's good, but recognize that it could be better and be open to that fact. And if you can start to shine a light on that, it might feel negative initially, but actually all you're doing is you're just shining a light on what's missing, so to speak. The second thing is you start to figure out yourself with a pen and a paper, journal, draw it out, just sit with it, try and get out of your head and try to feel what it is you want to see different in that relationship. What is it that you would love to see change in that relationship? What kind of conversations? Now, here's the big caveat to this, is you don't do that while trying to understand what they want or what they're open to. Because quite often we shut that creativity down, because this is what happens. We go, yeah, it'd be great just to have vulnerable conversations, to be able to go away and have some real quality. Yeah, but they're not open to that. They're not vulnerable, and they may not want. So straight away, you're trying to almost understand what that person wants, and you can control the outcome. But what you can do is get in touch with what you want. So number one is get in touch with the real truth of the relationship. Number two is identify without any conversation what it is you want. And number three, the invitation is then, with the clarity that you have, with the courage that you have, with the I suppose the vision of what it is you want for that relationship in hand, you then go to them and you go, I believe that our relationship could be deeper, or I want more from this relationship, or I value you more than I've maybe ever let you know, and you know what, I want more for us and I want to hang out more, but I just don't know how to do it. You don't have to have the answer, that's the point. And you just go, look, if it's something you're open to or something that you'd like to explore, let's do this. You don't have to come with the answer. In fact, what you're doing is you're just inviting them in to maybe participate. And you share with them very, very softly about your findings in terms of what you're aware of, in terms of the depth or the lack of depth. You're not there to have a go with them. You're not there to say, now if you did this, then we would have a better relationship. That's not what this is about. And what you'll find is they probably have exactly the same thought process themselves, but they've been afraid to address it because they don't know how. So there's some little things you can do, but the most important thing is not to take for granted and assume that the relationships in your life are great. That is the greatest pitfall that I see with people falling into relationships and falling into this pattern and falling into this staleness, that we just assume relationships are in a great place. But when we find the courage to actually address the truth, that is when we can actually really grow that relationship and obviously benefit from that on both sides of the party. So that's my view on relationships, and I just want to share that with you today. Thanks.